What's up, ladies? Oh, pardon me. I want to see the score. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? The Brew with Matt and Mike is back, and Wisconsin just lost 71-73 to USC. I was at the game. Mike was watching on TV. I thought they had it, and my first question for Mike right here is, I got comfortable with Wisconsin's lead while I was at the game and started socializing a little bit. I think Wisconsin's up 10 or 12. Next thing you know, USC was right there with them, and I was like, oh, we got a game right now. Can you tell me what the hell happened? What did I miss?
Well, everything was going pretty well. It was a very well contested game throughout the whole first half. USC threw their punches, Wisconsin threw their late punch. They started getting things rolling offensively, whereas USC was just shooting high-level shots. High-level shot making was happening in the first part of that first half. I'm going to mess his name up. Baker Mazzara. Yeah, Baker Mazzara. He was cooking. He hit a couple of really high-level shots. You had Agent Zero's kid, Elijah Arenas coming in. He has a couple of very nice moves, very high level professional style moves. And, it was a very well contested first half. Second half came out, Wisconsin came out blazing. Ball was moving, guys were moving. Boyd was, attacking in transition, attacking the rim. Built up a nice 12-point lead after a 17-2 run. And then it was that crazy sequence, right? Were you paying attention to the crazy sequence where they had 8 offensive rebounds and came away with 0 points? Very difficult to do. They had great looks. It was very funny. Robbie Hummel was talking about on the broadcast. It's not very often you have a team miss its last 7 shots in one possession. It's a crazy stat. 0 for 7 in one possession. It was like, oh, okay, that's a struggle. So I felt like after that, they kind of ran out of gas because they put out the finishing touches. Rapp hits a big 3. Carrington hits kind of the final buzzer of that run, final nail in that run to make it 17-2 at the top. They call a timeout. Things are looking good. The ball's moving. They're playing great defense. They're cleaning up the glass. And then for whatever reason, Wisconsin didn't come out of the huddle prepared enough. They let down the gas a little bit. They came out a little bit unfocused. They gave up, I think, 3 offensive rebounds on the very next possession, 3 or 4. And that's where it just started to see maybe they got worn down a little bit. Also, Belauskas didn't play very much in that stretch. I'm not sure why, if he was hurt or what was going on with him with foul trouble. But USC just steadily walked Wisconsin down. They came down. They knew where they were going offensively. Asauer in the paint, he was an absolute monster, and they changed defensively as well in that time. Boyd was really, really getting to his left hand again. He was getting to the paint, finishing super well, high-level stuff. And all of a sudden, they started changing their coverage, and they went underneath him and then loaded to the ball, especially on that right wing. That's where he was doing most of his damage during the game. And Boyd wasn't proving he wanted to step back and shoot that 3 off that ball screen, so they continued to shut it off and grinded out defensive possessions, rebounded the ball very well, walked Wisconsin down, and eventually took the lead on some very difficult shots. I felt like Wisconsin actually played pretty well defensively, other than cleaning up the offensive glass. For as well as they did on the offensive glass, Wisconsin did not do their job in the last 12 minutes of cleaning up the offensive glass and finishing out that game that we were hoping they would. And also just a rough shooting night. I thought Boyd did a great job getting downhill, did a great job getting into the paint, was spraying out to shooters, especially in the second half because it was so congested in there. And guys just didn't knock shots down. Rhodey had a few wide open ones. Carrington was, a little bit off today. Blackwell was extremely off today, couldn't find his rhythm, had 5 turnovers. So I really thought they were actually going to take the lead and maybe come back and win this game after Nolan Winter hit a big 3 on the left wing. I thought, okay, that was kind of like what had happened at Michigan. We'd seen them respond after losing a big lead like that. And so I thought, here we go again. Let's see what they can do. And USC just made a few more plays. Wisconsin just missed some easier shots that they normally could make. And the end result was Baker Mazzara just making huge plays. The 30-year-old redshirt sophomore. Apparently he's 26. I don't understand how he's still playing.
Turning 26 in 2 days.
Yeah, cool. But he was a lot to handle. So for me, it was funny. I talked to Matt off air. I said, he was killing us. He was really good. He's 26 years old. Okay, now I understand why I'm seeing what I'm seeing from him.
High level stuff. I mean, the shots he was making were as high level you'll see in the college game. The shot making that he was
Yes.
doing was absolutely ridiculous. So, one, Wisconsin didn't shoot well, and then USC, they didn't shoot well from three, but the tough shots that they were making, you just really got to tip your cap to them. Wisconsin, my biggest problem with today's performance, and I'll get your thoughts on this, was I thought they settled a little bit. There was a lot of inside out looks that they just missed. There's a lot of good looks that they missed, but at the same time, I mean, when you finish 9 of 37 from three, when you're shooting that poorly, feed the post. I felt like they were not feeding the post nearly enough, barely at all. So I'm of the mindset, hey, the three's not falling. Let's get downhill. Let's get to the free throw line. Let's touch the post. So what do you think about the shot selection? Do you think they should have taken their foot off the pedal at all when it comes to attempting threes?
There was about 6 that I was not a huge fan of. And that was more just
me.
Yeah, there's a few. There was one from Boyd. There was one from Rap. There was a couple of early shot. Yeah. There was a couple of early ones that it's just like, we could probably get something better. And I think one thing that really was a big determining factor is actually Wisconsin tried to go to Winter a couple of times on the block. They started off the second half with him trying to get a touchdown low, and they went back to that same little back screen play. And both times he got blocked by Asara, their big man. He did a great job of getting down there, getting his feet planted, and timing up Winter's shot. So I think for that kind of maybe deterred them a little bit down there, because I know he was very athletic, very physical. I think they have a lot of length down there. I don't think they're overly big, USC, but they have a lot of length and they're very active. So for me, looking at that, I didn't like 6 or 7 of them, but overall, I thought they got good quality looks. They got guys inside out. There was a ton of inside out threes that they got today that, Rhodey was having a really rough night shooting. I think he was 2 for 10. As it went, 2 for 10, 1 for, 2 for 7 from 3. I think he had 3 more looks that were very, very wide open, very good shots for him that, just don't go down. So that's kind of the biggest difference for me in this game.
Yeah, the 3 that I'm talking about was from Rap. I believe maybe about 5 minutes left. Wisconsin was up 3, and it was like semi-transition where I believe Boyd had the ball, just hit Rap running down the floor, and Rap launched it. And if you make it, that's a wonderful shot, but you miss it, and then they get rolling on the other end. That's a huge game changer. That's the time where I like to feed the posts and kind of go back to old school Wisconsin basketball. Not where you turn it into kind of prevent offense where you're just kind of holding the ball, you're not really doing anything, but running through a little motion and not
make them defend,
getting a great shot, working to get a great shot versus an okay look like that early in the shot clock. So that to me was a huge turning point in the game, was when Rap hucked up that 3 when USC was right there with Wisconsin. So and then another note that I have here is I looked at the box score, and Terrence Williams plays for USC, and this is his second year. It looks like last year he got hurt 7 games into the season, and this year I imagine he's not the same player because he's only averaging 14 minutes a game and had 0 minutes, so he just briefly checked in against Wisconsin. The reason I bring that up is if you watched Wisconsin years ago, they got into a brawl with Michigan, and he was one of the key components to that brawl. And he was a good player at Michigan, averaged 12 points per game his last year there. But that actually blows my mind. So he's 25 years old, and he got 0 minutes today, just under 1 minute for USC. So that's a blast from the past. Looking at the box score, I did not remember him playing for USC. But, Mike, my next question is, I heard some people at the game complaining about the refs. Did you have any thoughts there?
There was a few times where, they were overly physical. I thought they were overall handled things pretty well. There was a couple of out of bounds calls that I thought actually should have went Wisconsin's way. There was a couple of them that, maybe could have went USC's way as well. Overall, there wasn't anything that I was overly egregious, I don't think. USC was a physical team. Wisconsin was allowed to be physical at times as well. I thought overall they didn't really affect the flow of the game. So for me,
I agree.
Yeah, there wasn't anything big. If there was a specific call I could think of, it was maybe the review at the end, but that's about it.
Yeah. The one thing I will note is Musselman when I was there in person, he really works the ref, Tom Izzo style. Like he goes hard after the refs, and I do think there's a method to the madness. Obviously, I don't. That's not my preference, but I definitely think once you're in the ref's ear nonstop the whole game, it might be able to swing you a call or two. But that's something I did notice in person. Musselman works the refs hard. Not a surprise. He's a high energy guy. But Mike, then my last question for you is: moving forward, are you discouraged at all?
No, I think it was just an off shooting night. They came off of a really, really high level game against Penn State where, you could almost do no wrong. And then you're kind of hoping to
Yeah.
continue that momentum. But this is what college basketball is, right? We're dealing with guys that are a little bit younger. The consistency level isn't quite as there. And, it's never going to, they're not robots. So I think overall, they didn't have a good shooting night. They had a chance to put this team away. And for whatever reason, there was a couple of adjustments. They didn't adjust as well as whereas USC made some adjustments and really found something within that game, right? Things were going Wisconsin's way for about 18, 20 minutes, maybe even a little bit longer, maybe 26 minutes. And then all of a sudden, bang, they switch up their ball screen coverage and things look a little bit different. They adjusted better. Overall, not a great loss. I don't think, USC's been struggling a little bit. We were hoping to pick this up so we could continue rolling, continue the momentum, building our case for the NCAA tournament. But overall, they made some tough shots. USC's done this to a few different teams now. The league is tough. This is a different league. Also, it's very weird for me to watch the Big Ten include USC. Washington. Yeah, it's very, very odd. I'm so used to, having these regional conferences, it's just that's how we were. That's, USC is used to having a little bit different style of basketball as well, right? They've played that Pac-10, Pac-12 style where it's more open floor, more individualistic, more isolation stuff. So that's the thing that's really interesting about watching the Big Ten this year. And just as they've added all these teams is the different styles you're going to see, the different coaching styles you're going to see of what's available every night. And, for me, this was a game that pretty easily could have been won by 15, 20 points if a few more shots fall and timely shots and things like that. But sometimes that happens. You get into a dogfight and they came down with more plays at the end.
100%. Yep. Just sometimes the shots won't fall, but at the same time, live by the three, die by the three. And I think that fits Wisconsin very well. So maybe come March, they can go on a run, or they might just dip out in the first round. So I would just, and I will say, I did notice John Blackwell, he was trying to get to the hoop late in the game. He was trying to get downhill a little bit. He was just getting cut off. They were just locking him down. They were on him like Velcro. They were all over him, and he finished with 5 turnovers. But I do want to give him a shout out for that play where he was an absolute madman when Wisconsin got those 7 rebounds on offense. And then also he had a nice play guarding Baker, where he denied him really, really well late in the game, and Wisconsin ultimately forced a shot clock violation, and that was because USC, they were just kind of lost. They're like, we can't get the ball to Baker. What are we going to do? The play's designed for him to get the ball, and they kind of panicked, and Wisconsin got a shot clock violation on the defensive end. So I will give Blackwell a shout-out there, but for me, moving forward, what I want to see improve is, hey, shots not falling. Let's maybe play a little bit old-school basketball. Let's get inside out a little bit more. Slow it down perhaps and hit the post a little bit. That's what I would like to see. But Mike, I think this is a solid episode. And I think we're going to wrap it up. Anything else you want to say?
No, I will say one thing with John Blackwell. It was interesting to see at the very end of the game. After Rhodey had drawn the assignment of Baker most of the game, Blackwell said, you know what, no, it's my turn to guard him. And he actually did a fabulous job. He did a fantastic job. He moved his feet. He navigated screens very, very well. So for me, looking forward, and especially for him and his aspirations to go be an NBA guy, I need to see that. I need to see that guy. I know he's an offensive production, and I know he has a lot of offensive responsibilities, but for him to succeed at the next level, especially at the highest level in the NBA, I need him to want to go and guard guys like that and actually be able to defend like that and play offense as well. Because for him, he should want to dominate that aspect. And we've seen him have some defensive lapses. I understand he has a very high usage rate on offense. It's not as easy as it says. You got to be in great condition. You got to do that stuff. But he has the ability to do so. And for him to go to that ultimate next level, I would love to see him continue to do that and build on that defensive momentum he had at the very end of the game.
Yeah, and I'm not discouraged at all. Badger fans, don't be discouraged. It's just one of those nights, and I think that there's a good chance Wisconsin wins against Minnesota next week and against Ohio State. Both are at home. And then the following week, Wisconsin might sneak into that top 25. But I do think the future is bright for this Wisconsin team. And yeah, this was the brew. I made a little late night brew, decaf here. I just, I didn't have my coffee today, and I was craving the taste. I don't even need the caffeine. I need that taste, man.
You need a little acidity in your life. I got you, man. Well, I'm glad you did.
Sir.
And thank you guys for joining us. Subscribe, and we'll comment, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Yes, sir.